Hey there you guys, this is just a brief overview of all of the different cards from the Final Fantasy TCG's first set, Opus One, and I wanted to show you guys what my favourite picks were for each element. I'm going to be showing you one forward, which is a creature, one backup, which is like a land / enchantment for magic terms, and one summon, which will be an instant, as well as a honourable mention for each element as well, so that there's, you know, an extra favourite, because there's a lot of good cards in this set from what I can tell. Just because I haven't picked a card, just don't, bear in mind there are a lot of good cards in this set, so don't throw loads of hate at me saying, oh my god, why is this card not here? I wanted to keep this quite brief, and as brief it can be. If you want a more in-depth look at the set and like all the different cards in there and sort of a bigger review of the whole thing, then check out the videos by the guys at Six Sages Gaming, as they go into great detail about every single card in the set, and the videos are really, really good quality, so you should definitely check them out. The first element that we're going to go into is going to be the fire element. Now fire is very much just aggro and I'm going to beat your face in, so we're going to go straight in with it, and the forward that we're going to be showing off is the starter deck Tifa. Now this card's just nuts. The first thing to identify whether a card is good or not in a new card game is to identify what the curve is. So is its power stronger or weaker than its cost would suggest? Now, in terms of power to cost ratio, Tifa is on point. 8k for a 4-drop is solid, very solid. 9k is like the magic number and is the highest that is printed on a card at the moment, and her ability is S and fire, which is one fire crystal, and you have to discard a copy of her, or a Tifa, it doesn't have to necessarily be that Tifa, to deal 6,000 damage to a guy your opponent controls. It doesn't sound like much, but when you factor in the fact that she has a searcher in the form of Zangan, which is a backup that allows you to search for any copy of Tifa, and while he's on your board, all of your Tifas have haste, which works exactly the same way as magic does. So when you factor all of this stuff together, and there's a second Tifa which has haste naturally, so you'll have Tifas to discard for this one's effect, this card is insanely powerful. Now for backup, I've gone with Red Mage. Now, the reason I've gone for Red Mage is because of his low cost and the fact that his ability will always be relevant at any stage in the game, making it so that your opponent's guys can't block, sort of no-sells a lot of cards in this game. Like Prish is a very, very strong blocker under Earth. Squall, which I'll get to later, is a very strong blocker under Ice. There's just so many good blockers, and this card just goes, no, don't care, whatever. For Summon, I've decided to go for Brynhilda, because there is a couple of good fire summons. Like Ifrit is a 1-drop that deals 4,000 damage to any creature, and is good. Is very good at kind of finishing a guy off or playing combat tricks, but he doesn't quite do enough damage just to go, your guy's dead. It's not quite lightning bolt powerful from magic. However, Brynhilda costs slightly more, but dealing 7,000 to a creature will kill off a good 50-60% of every creature in the game, and those that it doesn't kill will maim and make it so that your combat tricks just become even more powerful. With blocking a guy and 7,000 damage on top, you're probably going to kill something. And then my honourable mention for fire goes to a card that I don't believe was in the Japanese game, purely because the cards, or the game that it's referencing has only just been released, is Lan from World of Final Fantasy. Now, Lan is a unblockable creature, pretty much. He can't be chump blocked, or he can't be blocked by anything stronger than him, meaning he can't die in combat unless you're pairing him with something that's identical in power to him. He can't block anything that's bigger than him either. Now, the fact that he's 3 cost and 7k power is strong, is very strong. He also has a searcher in the form of his sister Rain, who also triggers off of an EX burst the same as Tifa's one does, meaning that if you take damage and that card flips over into your damage, then like Vanguard you get kind of a triggery effect, and you fulfill the effect that you would have gotten by playing the card naturally. Lan just seems like he puts your opponent on a clock. You can't block him with anything that's stronger than him, and blocking him with anything weaker than him will die, and he can't block anything bigger than him, but you don't really want to be blocking him with him towards anything bigger than him, because then he'll die. So he can block anything smaller than him. Giving him Brave in some manner or another seems like it would make him extremely powerful, so Lan is definitely one to watch out for. Moving on to Ice now, which is probably my favourite element in the game, because I am a control player at heart. I play control in every game there is going, whether it's Yu-Gi, Magic, UFS, Final Fantasy now. I love control, and Ice seems to do that beautifully. Now, my pick for the best, or my favourite forward for Ice is probably the legendary Squall, which I'm very lucky to have a foil of. He's just really solid. Like he costs 3, which isn't too bad. He's under the curve slightly. He's 6k power rather than the 7, say, that Larn had, or, you know, he's a little bit weaker than you would suggest. However, his ability is horrifying. He will sit there and just tank anything your opponent has, and your opponent does not want to block him. Because when he is blocked, or blocks, which means that he's just so versatile, he chooses any forward on the field and deals us 6 grand damage. That's a lot. You know, it means that in order to successfully kill him, you have to block him with something that's 12k. In order to block him and not get killed in return. And the fact that he has his S ability, which is, it doesn't cause him to dull or tap, which means that you can play at literally any given time like Magic, gives him the ability to have first strike as well. So there is just no safe time to block Squall. There is no safe time to attack when Squall is on the field. He is just very, very good. And I was a little unsure of him when I saw him until I played him, and he's very good. For the Ice backup, I chose a card from the starter set for Lightning starter. Is Jill Nabat, and I'm really pleased that this card's really good because I love the character. I like my sassy women, and she's full of sass. And that translates really well here because what she does is when you play her, and 2-drop backups are always worth looking at because you only have to discard 1 card in order to play them, as opposed to anything that costs more where you start, you know, minusing from your hand a lot, and it's just, you don't want to drop that many cards. However, she has an effect when she's played and when she goes into your damage, which is freeze 2 of your opponent's forwards, which means they don't untap or activate during your opponent's next turn. That's really good. If your opponent goes a bit ham on you when they're playing aggro and they hit her, you're free to just slap them around the face next turn for doing so, and that's really strong. Not only that, she also has an S ability, so extra copies of her aren't dead in your hand, because you can only play 1 copy of any named character. She chooses one of your opponent's forwards, taps it, and freezes it. That's really good. Like, for a 2-drop guy, when I was learning the game, I looked and I thought, oh, this doesn't seem that great. Now that I know the game pretty well, she's really, really, really good. For the summon, I decided to go with the 3-drop Shiva because, much like Jill, she does something very similar. She dulls a creature and she freezes it. And that, I've discovered, is just very, very good in this game. It's just a very solid pick. There's quite a lot of good ice summons, actually. Hades is pretty good as well, but I decided to go with this Shiva purely because she's cheaper, which means she's more useful at any stage in the game, and she does enable you a win condition if they've only got 1 guy out, or if they've left a big blocker up, you just go, dull your guy, I'm going to swing in with 3 guys and kill you. That's really, really solid. Now, my honourable mention, I am so pleased that this card is good, and I'm so pleased that I've managed to pick up a foil of him already, and he's really cool and I love him, he is my bae, is Kuja. Now, Kuja is my favourite character in the entire Final Fantasy franchise because I don't think I've ever seen a character, or particularly a villain, with such a good kind of philosophy on why he does what he does. He's like the biggest narcissist on the universe, and I love it. And in this, he's really, really quite good actually. He's a 5-drop, so he's quite expensive, but he's naturally 9k attack, which is the highest printed attack in the game. And in order to target him with a summon or an ability, so with anything, you have to discard a card first. Now, given that resource management in this game is very important, like having to discard cards from your hand is a really big deal, he is not somebody that you want to see on your opponent's board. You know, he is a massive guy that you have to kind of go, okay, I have to deal with this, but I'm going to be going negative on everything I do to try and kill him. That's really, really, really good. Moving on to Earth now, I think that my favourite pick for the best forward in Earth at the moment is probably Dark Knight Cecil. Now, he doesn't seem like all that much. He's about right on the curve. He's probably on the higher end. He's a 7k power as a 3-drop, which is very good, but it's solid. However, his ability is really, really mean, for want of a better term, and it actually kills the deck I'm trying to play at the moment. It's when you take damage, you choose a forward your opponent controls and deal it 5,000 damage. Earth has a lot of direct damage sort of dealers, and in its backups, in its summons, in all sorts of things. So having the ability to just go, I don't like your guy, I'm going to kill it, it also means that they have to choose the right order of things to attack it in, because if they attack with their biggest guy first, you just go, okay, I'll take the damage and kill your small one. And if they attack with the small one, chances are that small one can't beat Cecil. So it just puts your opponent in a really difficult position, and I love it. I think it's really good. I say I love it, I actually hate it because it kills my deck, but it's really, really good. For backup, I decided to go with Shantotto, which I don't have yet, but this card's really, really good. She's a 7-drop, which for a backup is extremely expensive, but she board wipes. We're talking about, let's say we're talking Magic terms here. This is a land that board wipes the field, not just kills them, removes them from the game. This card is dumb, like really, really dumb. She not only that, but she also taps for any colour, or almost any colour. That's really good. Like, you can't really argue with how good that ability is. It means that she's splashable in 3 colour decks, 4 colour decks. I mean, I really want to see someone play 6 colour control, because that would amaze me greatly. Like running, there's a Golbez under Lightning, which I haven't put here, but he's really fun, and this Shantotto just kind of fits into that beautifully. But you could just splash this card into literally any deck that even tickles the Earth element, and it's just worth playing it. In terms of summon, I decided to go with Hecatoncheir, which I think I've pronounced correctly. Please don't like diss me hard for my pronunciation, because I think I got that right. But she destroys a backup of cost 3 or more. Now, one of the best cards that I will get to later underwater is the card Minwu, and having played against that card, I'm now realising just how important backup destruction actually is. There are a lot of very strong effects onto backups, and Hecatoncheir is the only summon that can destroy backups, as far as I know. There's a backup that can do it, there's a forward that can do it, and there's Hecatoncheir that can do it. Now, I really think that this card is important. It's not even that the card I think is that amazing, it's that it's necessary. So I just think that it's really, really important to play this card. For an honourable mention, I went with the card Seraphy, which is another World of Final Fantasy character. When you read this card, it doesn't sound all that great, because when you play her, or when you take her as damage, both players get a card from their discard pile or break zone back into their hand. Now, this doesn't sound all that great until you realise, turn 1, bear in mind you have to discard cards to generate crystals, you could discard a character, play her, and then put the character straight back in your hand again. This character is free, and she's 6k, which is well above the curve for a 2-drop guy. She's very, very good, and late game, if you're playing like one-ofs in certain characters, or you're playing a character that has an S ability, you could just fish it back to your hand and then play it just like that. And she costs so little, I had to mention this card. I don't know just how much potential she has, but it seems really strong in the right hands. Moving on to wind cards now, and the forward that I've chosen for wind is lucky really, because it's one of my favourite characters in the entire Final Fantasy franchise, because he's a Final Fantasy IX character, and I really like Final Fantasy IX, and that's Zidane. Now, Zidane is, luckily, very, very good. He's only a 2-drop, which is a benefit to anybody. He is also untargetable by your opponent's summons or abilities. Now, as a Magic player, Hexproof was always really, really powerful, so to see it on such a cheap costing guy seems really, really good. And not only is he Hexproofish, he's also unblockable by anything that costs 4 or more. Now, 4 seems to be where the late game starts, as I've said. So I think that the fact that he just gets past any of those guys and doesn't even have to bother even looking at them puts your opponent on a clock, much like Lan from the Fire cards. It's just he's much cheaper and he's much harder to remove. However, he does have a very, very big weakness in the fact that he dies horribly to any kind of AoE effects. So there is that to bear in mind. Now, in terms of the backup, I decided to go with Aerith because she's busted. She's basically free. When she comes into play, you untap or activate 3 backups you control. If you've got 3 backups, she costs literally nothing, and that's horribly powerful in this game. Not only that, but she has another effect, and I don't know, I'm still finalising how the ruling on this works, because I want to know if it works like Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh! But S-tap, activate all forwards you control, so untap all your guys. They can't be chosen by summons or abilities this turn. Make all your guys hexproof until the end of the turn. We've just gone over why Zidane's good doing that, and now all of your guys can do it. Now the thing I want to know is if one of my guys gets targeted by a damage or kill spell, can I then use her and have the spell fizzle, or is it like Yu-Gi-Oh! Where you've already targeted the guy, therefore they still take the damage? Because if it's like Magic, this card is just insanely powerful. Now the summon, Wind also has an extremely powerful summon in the legendary rarity form of Valifor. Evacuation effects, as in bounce everything to its owner's hand, is always powerful. Now bear in mind that every summon in this game is at instant speed. That's extraordinary. Being able to go, oh, you've got at least 2 more guys than me and you're about to go in for the kill. Nope, all of them back in your hand, please. Or if your opponent overextends or does anything stupid, you just punish them so hard for it. And then, because you're playing the card, you obviously play around it for yourself. This card's so good. There's no 2 ways about it. If you're playing a wind deck, get hold of this card. It's just extraordinary. And then my honourable mention, which would have been my best pick for the wind backup had Aerith not existed, was the Archer. As we discussed with Hecate and Care already, I think that having the ability to destroy your opponent's backups is very, very important. There's so many good backups, like, you know, Aerith is a good example of that. You know, you need her off the board to be able to safely deal with your opponent's guys. So having a guy that can kill off your opponent's backups is extremely important. It's not so much that the card is broken, it's that it's necessary. Okay, for water now, I don't actually have the card that I think is the best forward in this element, but he's insane. I think decks will be built around this guy, and it's the legendary rarity version of Tidus, or Tidus, however you want to bloody well pronounce it. He's horrifying. Late game, he will insta-kill you. By having an extra copy of him and 2 water mana, you just go ham at your opponent and attack for as much damage you've taken. So whatever damage you've taken, he then deals back to your opponent. I think this will be best paired up with either a fire splash using red mage to stop your opponent blocking, or a lightning variant where you could give him haste. But there's just so many options with this guy, and given that there's a searcher for FF10 characters in the FF10 starter deck, this guy's just bug nuts powerful. Now, for the backup, I think that this little guy was a little slip under the radar, but oh my god, having played against him, he is filthy, and that's Minwu. Now, I've not played FF2, so I don't know the character, which upsets me a little bit, because I like, you know, we all want to play our favourite characters. You cannot not play this guy. The forwards you control don't receive damage that is less than their power. Bear in mind that a lot of the ways in which your guys die in this game is through cumulative damage. So, say you're playing against an Earth deck that does 2,000 to all of your guys, then deals 5,000 to one of your guys to kill your 7k guy. Minwu makes it so that that cannot happen. Until Minwu is dead, your guys have to be killed in one shot. That's obscenely powerful. No, I would argue that this is probably the best backup in the game so far. He's just horrible. Not only does water have probably the best backup in the game, it has quite easily the best summon in the game. It's a common, it's really easy to pick up, and it's a Moogle. 1 drop, draw 2 cards, discard a card. Bearing in mind again that all summons are at instant speed, you just go, at the end of your turn, I'm going to draw 2 cards and drop a card, and then in my turn I'm going to draw 2 cards. There's so much plus. So much plus. It's so good. And the fact that you can do it when you take damage from using him as well, that's so powerful. From what I've checked the Japanese wiki, and I think he was slightly different, but he was banned in the Japanese game. I can totally see why. This card's ridiculous. If you're playing water, you play 3 of this card. You would splash water just to play 3 of this card, it's that good. The honourable mention for water is Cloud of Darkness. While Cloud of Darkness isn't quite as powerful as Moogle or Minwu or anything like that, she still board wipes. If you've got a guy, let's say Tidus, who is, I'm going to go off and kill you in one shot, Cloud of Darkness comes in and kills everything but one of your guys or your opponent's guys. So let's say you're playing the Firewater one with the red mage that says your opponent can't block. I have a Tidus out. I play Cloud of Darkness, blow up everything but my Tidus, you have to blow up everything but one of your guys. Red mage, your guy can't block. Tidus' effect, I'm going to attack you 6 times. That's a combo that just instantly wins you the game, and that can't be ignored. I also wanted to mention Ultimecia, but I think like Cloud of Darkness, purely because of combo capabilities like that, is just edges her out. Okay, the last of the normal elements here is Lightning, and I depressingly don't have 2 of the cards that I've put on the list, and I need both of them because they're really, really good. The forward that I've put forward, for this one is the legendary rarity version of Lightning, and that's because she's just extremely good. She's solid all around. She's not that expensive considering her power. She pluses when she's played, and she searches for a kill spell of all things. She has an ability that can target one of your opponent's guys and just kill it. I really want this card because I've realised now how insanely powerful she is next to Zidane, and she searches for a spell that can kill anything that could block Zidane, and then her ability allows her to kill anything that could block Zidane. This just seems really good to me, and I think she's very powerful, and I think she'll be very sought after, and hopefully not too sought after, because I kind of want her to. For the backup that I decided to go for with Lightning, I decided to go for the Sage card. Now, Sage is really powerful because it's a reanimator card, and the reason that I've decided on that is because in this game, playing a card and picking up a card is just very powerful, and not having to discard too many cards while still retaining your hand is good. However, because the S abilities exist in which you have to drop copies of the same character in order to play them, a card like Sage is really, really strong because it means that you can discard a copy of the same character to pay for that character, let's say Lightning, and then you can pick up a card with Lightning and then play Sage after her to pick up the Lightning you discarded to pay for the first Lightning, bear with me here, and then that means that you have one in your hand and one on the field to be able to pay for the S effect. So that, to me, comes across as a very, very strong effect. And the summon that I've decided to pick is the summon that Lightning searches for, which is Odin. And it's very simple, it's nothing particularly incredible, but it's just a basic kill spell. Like Black in Magic, there's just so many kill spells that are viable, but something like this is very general purpose, and it's just a necessary colour, or colour fixer, or you'd be playing this if you're playing Lightning, you just would. This is a 3 of, or unless you have a very good reason, this is a 3 of in every Lightning deck. I don't own the honourable mention for this either, which is a shame because I really want that one too, but it's the hero rarity version of Lulu. Now, I didn't realise how good she was when I first saw her, again, like many of the cards on this list, that she is a backup that can insta-kill pretty much any guy that comes out, unless there's some way of boosting them. 9k is the highest printed value for power. Lulu deals 10,000 damage to any given character, and therefore can insta-kill pretty much anyone in the game. So, I haven't put her higher on the list because I think that Sage is more important to the deck than she is, and she doesn't necessarily go in every Lightning deck, but I do think that for what she does, she's very, very powerful. Now the last two elements are very odd in this game, which is light and dark. You can only have either light or dark characters on the field, and you can only have one of them at any given point. I'm actually going to lead with my honourable mentions before I go into what I think the best light and dark card is, because there aren't many of them, so there isn't enough to go off to say backup and summon, etc. There's just forwards that are worth playing. But I'm going to mention these two first, which are Chaos and Cosmos. These are essentially your colour fixers in this game. If you're playing 2 or more colours, there's pretty much no reason not to run a copy of one of these 2 cards. They tap for any colour, and they allow you to play, they allow to get around the light and dark rule by being able to have them and another card. Now, I've checked on rulings and stuff, and it turns out if you have another character out, and Chaos or Cosmos dies through an effect like Hecaton Care or Archer or anything like that, you do get to keep the guys that you've played. They don't instantly kill themselves, which is a very interesting fact. Moving on to the best light card in the game, I think, it's Cloud. Shock Horror, Cloud in this game is good. Oh, whoop-de-doo. Of course he's good. He's the cover guy of FF7. If he wasn't good, I think there'd be a massive uproar and anarchy through the streets. Now, he's extremely undercosted. Bear in mind he's colourless, basically. You can play any colour to pay for light or dark cards. He's really, really, really strong for his cost. He's 8k for 4, which is on the high end of the curve, and he has Brave. Now, Brave in this is really, really powerful. It's even more powerful when you look at the fact that he has 2 S abilities that dull him, which means he can attack you and then do them during your opponent's turn. Now, the reason that I'm not playing Cloud a lot is because you don't really want to play too many light clouds, because you can't discard light or dark cards from your hand to pay for costs. Therefore, you don't want to end up with them clogged in your hand. He does kind of get around that by having an S ability, so I reckon that he still fits with a fire deck that has the regular clouds in it, but I wouldn't play too many of him. The dark card, on the other hand, I think is splashable in pretty much any deck going, which is Sephiroth. Because, again, Shock Horror, the villain of Final Fantasy VII, is good. Now, In all fairness, when I read him, I thought 8-drop, yeah, no, not playing that, far too overcosted. But he's actually quite necessary for the same reason that I said the Hecaton Care and Archer were. He's one of the only cards in the game that can destroy backups. And backups being as important as they are in this game means that Sephiroth is also important. And with Sephiroth being colourless, he's therefore splashable in literally any deck in the game. So bear in mind Sephiroth, I think he's almost staple status. If you're not playing a light card like Cloud or possibly Onion Knight, where I've seen there's some very interesting interactions you can make with Onion Knight, but I can't quite figure him out just yet. Sephiroth is just very splashable and is worth considering a one-of in pretty much any deck that you're playing. And with that, that's the end of my kind of review or the highlights for Opus One, and I hope you've enjoyed all the stuff that you've seen here, and maybe it'll give you some inspiration as to some things that you could play yourself. As I've said before, if you want a more in-depth review of all of the cards in the set, then check out Six Sages Gaming and their reviews. I'll leave a link to their videos in the description box. And if you like what you've seen here, then feel free to subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more Final Fantasy TCG videos, as well as tons of other stuff that I'm sure you guys will enjoy. Thank you very much for watching again, and I'll see you guys later. Bye now.